Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive into the Bhagavad Gita. Last time you mentioned wanting to get to the core of its message, so we're starting right at the beginning with chapter 1.
Yeah, it's really interesting how this first chapter just throws you right into the action, onto a battlefield, before even getting into the philosophy.
Straight into the conflict, huh?
Exactly. We're on the plains of Kurukshetra, two massive armies ready to fight the Pandavas and the Kauravas. But it's not just some political battle, it's this clash of ideologies, dharma versus adharma.
I was thinking about that, this whole setting. Two huge armies about to clash. That tension, it feels like a metaphor. Like it could be any big conflict in our own lives.
Right, like it sets the scene for a struggle that's not just happening out there, but inside each of us too. And that's where our main character, Arjuna, comes in. He's this legendary warrior, the greatest of the Pandavas, but right as the battle's about to begin, he has this total meltdown.
Meltdown, you say. I mean, I know it says crisis of conscience, but he's supposed to be leading his army. And
Yeah.
suddenly he's just overcome with grief and doubt.
Well, put yourself in his shoes. You look across the battlefield and see your family, your teachers, your friends, but they're on the other side, people you've grown up with, respected, maybe even loved.
And now he has to fight them. No wonder he falls apart. His whole world is turning upside down.
It's incredibly powerful the way the Gita describes his emotional state. There's this one verse where he says, "My limbs fail, my mouth dries up, my body trembles, and my skin burns. Even his famous bow, the Gandiva, slips from his hand."
Those words, they're so vivid, so real. Like, you can feel how much he's suffering. It makes you realize even the biggest heroes, the legendary warriors, they're still human.
Exactly. They still feel those deep emotions just like we do. And that's what makes Arjuna's struggle so relatable, even though it's set on a battlefield.
Yeah, I mean, haven't we all felt that?
Yeah.
Facing a choice where no matter what you do, it's going to be painful.
Exactly, those impossible choices. But then what's fascinating is how Arjuna tries to reason his way out of the fight.
Oh, yeah, I remember that part. He argues the war will destroy families, create chaos, and that even if they win, it'll just bring sorrow, not joy.
Right, he even starts questioning the whole idea of duty. Like, is it really worth it to fulfill his obligations as a warrior if it means all this devastation?
She's asking the big questions, isn't he?
Yeah.
What's the point of winning if everything and everyone you care about is gone?
Exactly. It's about questioning the true cost of our actions, the ripple effects they have. But what I find really intriguing is how Krishna reacts, or rather, doesn't react. He doesn't try to give Arjuna answers right away, he just listens.
That's interesting. You'd think a divine figure, someone full of wisdom, would jump in with a solution.
Yeah, but sometimes the best thing you can do for someone who's struggling is just be there. Let them process their emotions, their fears and doubts. It's like Krishna is saying, hey, I hear you, I see your pain, it's okay to feel this way.
Just creating a space for him to be heard.
Right, and that's powerful stuff even today. By letting Arjuna fully express his anguish, Krishna actually lays the groundwork for real understanding, for real change to happen. Because, it's only when we face our doubts head on that we can start to see clearly and move forward with purpose.
I see what you mean. It's like preparing the soil for something new to grow. It's amazing. Krishna's silence, it really speaks volumes. Like it makes you realize just listening can be so powerful. Just being there for someone's pain, not rushing to fix it. I wonder if we've lost that a bit these days.
Yeah, it's a good point. We're always trying to find quick solutions, offer advice, but sometimes we forget to just be present with someone's struggles?
It's like we're programmed to jump in with a pep talk or a to-do list
Hmm.
instead of just saying, hey, I get it, this sucks.
Right. And I think that's a big lesson here in chapter 1. Like the Gita is saying discomfort, doubt, even despair, these are all part of being human. It's not about ignoring them, but seeing them as chances to grow, to understand things better.
So it's okay to not have it all figured out, to let ourselves feel the messy parts of life.
Exactly, to embrace the mess. And that's a big part of what Arjuna is going through, too. It's not just an emotional breakdown. He's challenging everything he believes in.
You mentioned earlier that he questions the whole idea of duty. What did you mean by that?
Well, Arjuna's a warrior, right? His duty, his dharma is to fight. But he's realizing that blindly following that duty might actually cause more harm than good. He's wondering if being a warrior, fulfilling those obligations, is really the right thing, especially when it means so much pain and suffering.
So it's not just about doing what you're told or what society expects, but about looking at those expectations critically.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that sometimes what we think is our duty might actually go against our values, what we know is right deep down. And that's when we have to make tough choices, even if it means going against what everyone else expects.
It's amazing to think this text, written thousands of years ago, still speaks to us today. I mean, we're always facing tough choices, having to balance our responsibilities with what we believe in.
Absolutely, and those choices can be really hard emotionally. The Bhagavad Gita doesn't give you easy answers like a step-by-step guide,
Hmm.
but it gives you a framework to navigate those choices, to find some clarity in the midst of all the confusion.
And it all starts with that inner reflection, acknowledging our doubts and fears, just like Arjuna does on the battlefield.
Right, and that's where this idea of swadharma comes in, understanding your own unique purpose in life, your individual duty. And it's not something that's set in stone. You have to discover it through self-reflection, by questioning, by engaging with the world around you.
So we're all on this journey to uncover our own svadharma, our own path to a meaningful life.
Exactly, and that journey isn't always easy. It means facing tough choices, acknowledging our limits, and dealing with uncertainty. But it's through that struggle, through questioning and looking inward, that we get closer to understanding who we are and what we're here to do.
It's really powerful, this idea of svadharma. It takes the idea of duty and makes it personal, less about following rules blindly and more about living according to your values.
I like that. It's a beautiful way to put it. And this whole chapter, with all the drama and emotional intensity, it's really setting the stage for that journey of self-discovery.
Okay, so before we move on to chapter 2, where Krishna finally speaks, let's bring our listeners into the conversation.
I like it. Let's connect this ancient wisdom to their modern lives.
So listener, imagine you're at a crossroads, facing a decision that just feels impossible. You can see the arguments for both sides, but something inside you is holding back, full of doubt. What do you do? How do you handle that inner conflict? What questions do you ask yourself? And how do you find the courage to move forward, even when you're not sure what lies ahead?
These are the big questions that the Bhagavad Gita grapples with. It's about acknowledging that life is complicated, that we all face difficult choices, and that those choices often involve inner battles. But it's within those struggles that we find the potential for real growth and change.
Wow, those are some heavy questions to ponder. It's so easy to get caught up in the everyday stuff and forget to really think about the choices we're making and why. But we kind of left Arjuna hanging, right? He's poured his heart out, all his doubts, anxieties, everything, and Krishna just sits there, silent. What happens next?
Well, this is where the Bhagavad Gita really gets going. Chapter 1 sets the scene, introduces us to Arjuna and all his struggles. But it's in the chapters that follow that Krishna starts to share his wisdom, offering guidance that reaches far beyond the battlefield, into the heart of what it means to be human.
So we're moving from setting the stage to actually exploring the solutions, the answers to all those big questions Arjuna's wrestling with.
Not exactly answers, I'd say. The Gita isn't some kind of instruction manual for life. It's more like a philosophical conversation. It explores different perspectives on things like duty, action, and the nature of reality itself.
I see. It's not about finding one right answer for everyone, but more about going on a journey of self-discovery, grappling with these complex ideas right alongside Arjuna.
Exactly, and that's what makes it so engaging. It's not about finding the right answer, but about understanding the different viewpoints and choosing the path that aligns with your own values, with your own svadharma.
So we've seen chapter 1 set the stage, introduce Arjuna's dilemma, and show us how important honest self-reflection is. What are the key takeaways you'd want our listeners to walk away with before we dive into chapter 2?
Well, first, I think it's really important to understand that doubt and despair, they're natural. Even the greatest among us, like Arjuna, face moments of intense uncertainty. It's not a weakness, it's more like an invitation to dig deeper, to question what we believe.
Yeah, like you were saying before, it's okay to not have all the answers.
Yeah.
We don't have to have everything figured out all the time. And maybe it's in those moments of uncertainty that real growth and transformation can happen.
Exactly. And the second takeaway is that honest self-reflection, it's crucial. Before we can even start looking for solutions, we have to face our own inner struggles, just like Arjuna does on that battlefield. It's about making space for clarity, allowing ourselves to feel those difficult emotions without judgment.
So we've got permission to feel, to question, to acknowledge that life isn't always about having the right answers.
Absolutely. And with that understanding, that willingness to embrace all of life's complexities, we're ready to move on to chapter 2 and explore the wisdom Krishna has to offer.
That's it for this deep dive into chapter 1 of the Bhagavad Gita. We've walked the battlefield with Arjuna, felt the weight of his dilemma, and seen how important honest self-reflection is. Join us next time as we explore chapter 2, where Krishna finally breaks his silence and starts to reveal a path toward clarity and purpose. Until then, keep those thought-provoking questions in mind and see where they lead you.